On a national, state, and local level, the spring market just hasn't materialized. Where does this leave us? Perhaps not where you think. No matter which wannabe shock jock YouTuber you're getting all your investing and real estate related questions answered, I can tell you right now that there is no data from any sort of legitimate source that suggests that the housing market is going to crash. In all honesty, it had its opportunity last fall, and that just never materialized. At this point, anything short of a series of catastrophic events means that housing prices will remain pretty much where they are for the foreseeable future, or at least for the end of the year. Economists have been waiting on a recession for at least a year now. It may still be coming, and it may not. But even so, a recession doesn't necessarily equal a housing crash. In fact, with the glaring exception of the 2008 Great Recession, which was essentially caused by a housing crash, recessions lower mortgage rates, which in turn makes housing more affordable, which means that more people can afford to buy and home prices go up to varying degrees. So even if we do go into a recession at the end of the year, based on historical data, now is still not a bad time to buy, if you can find a home. What is it that Hamlet said? Buy. There's the rub. Because there is one clear trend that seems to overshadow every other data point and housing story out there. There is still a startling lack of inventory. This is as true for most of the nation as it is in the Napa-Solano County region. Headlines often parrot each other with banners touting the latest ugly numbers about home price declines year over year. I think last week there were headlines running in the Chronicle about how housing prices were up for the first time in 9 months. The headline and article implied that the housing slide was finally over. The problem is that they were pulling from data, thank you Zillow, that is really a couple months old. It reflects where the market was back in February and March when these homes were on the market then. And we were just coming out one of the worst fall markets I've seen in over 10 years of real estate. In truth, this slide ended 3 months ago. I follow a real estate research firm called Altos Data very closely because they generate data on a weekly basis and can see trends and patterns as they emerge, not 2 or 3 months later. Statistics clearly show that there are ample buyers for homes that are on the market. According to Altos, approximately 23% of new listings are going into contract within the first week. This is roughly the same as last spring when 25% of new listings were going into contract immediately. But let's see how this actually pans out locally. And now I do cover much more territory than just American Canyon, but this month I really want to drill down on what's going on in town because it's my home base. Also, at a micro level, I don't think that it's so far off from what's happening with the rest of the region. Right now, I am seeing that new construction is making up a significant portion of new listings and home for sale on the market. In American Canyon, 44% of the active inventory is from new construction over in Watson Ranch. Typically, new construction makes up between 15 and 18% of housing stock. Here's the catch. There are only 9 homes for sale in American Canyon. So what's really going on with inventory? Because in April, there were 12 new listings that came onto the MLS. This is really only slightly down from last year, 14 new listings in April 2022, and not so far off from 5 years ago, April 2018. What is dramatically different is the amount of inventory that is being carried over month to month. There were 34 homes for sale in April 2018. For the immediate 6-year period after the housing market cratered, so that's 2013 to 2019, American Canyon routinely carried 25 to 30 homes in active inventory every month. This is borne out in the sales numbers, 155 per year on average. Today, we are on pace to sell fewer than 100 homes for the first time since 2007, which was, 2007. And the only time since 2001 that there were fewer than 100 homes sold. These numbers are jarring and almost impossible to wrap my mind around right now. How is it that inventory has changed so much in 5 years? The sad truth is me or nobody really has the answer. But I do have some ideas about what's going on. I think there are a couple things that are at play here. First, prior to the Great Recession, homeowners bought a home roughly every 5 to 7 years. After the recession, that number lengthened to approximately every 9 to 10 years, although some economists do put it between 11 and 13 years old, or 11 and 13 years. Deals were to be had throughout the region, but in American Canyon for sure. And on top of that, almost 1/3 of American Canyon's housing stock, which is over 1,700 homes, was sold between 2008 and 2013. That means that prime moving years for a lot of people would have been somewhere between 2020 and 2023. Secondly, the trough for the median sales price in town was $288,000. So many small and large investors took advantage and gobbled up properties that are now being rented out with no intention of selling them. And for many small investors, these are used as passive retirement income. And then the third thing I'm seeing is the pandemic changed how we view buying and selling property. People had 3 years to be at home to create the home that they wanted. With insanely low interest rates for 2.5 years, people who may have thought about moving instead took out low interest home equity lines and created the home that they always wanted. Yes, you hear a lot about companies, they're starting to require their employees to come back to work, but most appear to still be flexible. With remote work much more prevalent than ever, even a change in jobs out of the area isn't necessarily a reason to pick up and move anymore. According to MLS data, we have been in a seller's market since at least 2001. Right now, there is less than a month of inventory on the market throughout most of the Napa and Solano County region. It's taking 30 to 45 days from the time the home goes on the market to the time it closes. And so while all of this information is fascinating and fun for me to gather, what does any of it actually mean? Well, to begin with, it means that my buyers are going to have to be super aggressive, especially in that $450,000 to $550,000 first-time home buyer price range. I don't mean to suggest that you should remove all contingencies prior to writing an offer. Far from it. What I am saying is that now isn't the time for games. The list price is $525,000, and you know that there are multiple offers coming in. Don't offer $520,000 and expect a counter. If you can afford $530,000, offer $530,000. Believe me, and I know this from personal experience, there is nothing worse than the feeling of knowing that you lost out on your dream home because you didn't go an extra $5,000 higher. For my sellers, buyers are extremely price sensitive now. Don't expect the same bidding wars that we had over the past couple of years. It's possible that you will get an above asking offer, but it's generally not by as much as we've been seeing. Home prices are still close to all-time highs, and mortgage rates are a couple points higher than they were last spring. And so buyers are much more gun-shy, and they're much more likely to sit on the sidelines if they don't get what they want. If your home is priced right, you really can't expect to get offers, or at least one, within the first 10 days. If your home is in that first-time homebuyer price range, you could probably expect to get multiple offers after the first weekend. But, and this is a big but, this isn't your pandemic market. You're going to have to work at making sure that your home is staged and or decluttered, presents well, no dirty dishes, make the beds, do the laundry, put the toilet seat down, fantastic curb appeal, the whole bit. Assume that you will have to make concessions for work to be done. We may be in a seller's market, but there will still be some give and take. That's all for this week's Peterson Report. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on the flip side.